We're out here today, early to mid-summer. Water up in that high 70s, even up to 80, 81 degrees. And those fish are starting to group up on offshore structure, which is my favorite time of the year. They're chasing big pods of gills, so if you find the gills, you're gonna find the fish. Let's get out there and see what happens. Okay, the fish are not touching jigs or anything bigger right now this morning. We did have a big storm go through, so it might have thrown them for a funk. So I'm gonna drop down to some finesse and see if we can get a couple fish. First cast with the drop shot. I'm using that 6'11" whip snake. It's a Levante series rod from Mega Bass. It's short but totally in control and perfect action fishing drop shots. Oh, trying to jump. Oh! So we threw a crankbait, a big hair jig, a waze jig with a spark jet, which is always my go-to, and nothing. First cast with the drop shot in the exact same spot, and big fish bites it. You can't force the fish to eat what you want them to eat, because I wanted them to eat that big jig so bad. And you can't do it. Or even if you do it, you might get a couple fish and be happy, but you can switch to something else sometimes and really put a lot more fish in the boat. First cast, finesse. A little number 2 drop shot hook. Light lines, wimpy rods can still put big fish in the boat. My setup for this drop shot rig is this Mega Bass Levante whip snake rod. It's 6'11". You got total control, and it doesn't matter how big the fish are, you can get them into the boat. And like always, I'm using my 10-pound high-vis braid, 8-pound fluoro leader, and that's basically my setup for all my finesse fishing. That bold bluegill color has been an absolute go-to for the last 3 to 5 years. Two casts in a row, switching to that drop shot. Crazy how much difference lure choice and presentation can make on a day. I mean, I'm used to throwing that big jig, and if I don't get bit after 5 casts, I just move to the next spot. Here, change the finesse drop shot, and back-to-back casts when it looked like there wasn't even any fish here. You can see that worm there in his mouth. I threw that Texas rig worm up more into the coontail. Fish wants to come up and jump. That's a good start on that. First cast with that Texas rig bullworm. Little bit shallower, still rocks, but there's coontail growing up on them. So they might just be tucked up there after that storm went through. There, right underneath the school of bluegills. The coontail comes out, hits a couple big rocks. And this fish was laying right on that edge, probably feed on those bluegills all morning. It's coming up. It's a really, really nice fish. Little baits on tough days still catch big fish. They won't touch a jig, a crankbait. Put that little 4.5-inch robo worm down there, shake it a couple times. It made all the difference. This morning was a super tough bite, and I started by throwing my normal jig and spark shad combo, and it just wasn't getting bit. So I mixed it up with a little bit of a crankbait, and I had a couple hit that, but it wasn't very good either. So what I did is I just downsized, picked up my drop shot rod, a number 2 hook, a 4.5-inch robo worm, and I was specifically casting this to where the nests were from the bluegills, and around those there was rocks and coontail. And if it didn't have those 3 things, I wasn't getting bit. And it was tough because I'd catch one nice fish on a spot, and that's all it would give up. So instead of trying to beat my head against the wall, I'm going to load the boat up and I'm going to go switch to another lake, because a lot of times just by jumping lakes, you can get on a different type of bite.